Good afternoon, and thank you for joining Teachers Retirement System of Georgia for the new member or new hire retirement planning 101, which we'll be talking about your TRS benefits. So, this meeting today will be about an hour. Please leave any questions that you may have in the text box, the chat box, or you can leave a comment on Facebook and YouTube, and we will answer those questions either throughout the presentation or at the very end. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we'll start with your TRS benefit, break down the formula, and then we'll move on to creditable service. So what is your TRS benefit? Your benefit is a defined benefit plan. So it's a little different from a defined contribution plan. With a defined benefit plan, some people refer to that as a pension, but you're guaranteed a lifetime income. That benefit is determined by a formula that is preset, and that lifetime benefit is passed on to you, and in some cases, that will be passed on to your beneficiaries for life. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So the formula that we use is your years, excuse me, your years of creditable service, which we multiply by 2%, and we take your high average salary, which is your highest 2 consecutive years of salary, wherever that falls in your career. So it doesn't have to be your last 2 years. It may be in the middle of your career. It may be at the beginning. So let's say you become a coach or you're getting an additional supplement. Let's say you work summer school and that's where your highest 2 years are. It doesn't necessarily have to be your last 2 years. So we take your highest average salary, again, the highest 24 months, and then we multiply that by the percentage to get your basic benefit under the max plan. So in the example that we have here, if you were to finish your career with 30 years of service, multiply that by 2%, that'll give you 60% of your high average salary. For this person, their high average salary was $5,536.83. And therefore, under the max benefit, they will get $3,322.10 for the rest of their lifetime. Now, the max that you can contribute into the TRS plan is 40 years of service. So that can get you up to 80% of your high average salary for the rest of your lifetime. Now, your benefit in your retirement is subject to state and federal tax because while you're contributing into the plan, you're paying that pre-tax. So everything that goes into the plan goes in before any taxes are taken out. And therefore, in your retirement, you have to pay taxes at that point. Now, for those of you that plan to keep the state health benefit plan, that will come out as well. And for those of you that are under the Board of Regents health plan, that will come out separate from your TRS benefit. So how does your TRS benefit you over the course of your lifetime? Well, obviously, the longer you work, the higher your benefit will be. So if you have a total of 10 years of service, we'll multiply that by 2%. Therefore, you'll get 20% of your average salary. And for this person who makes $3,750 for their high average salary, their monthly benefit for life would be $750. Now, as you can see on this chart here, the longer this person works, the higher their benefit is. So if they were to work 20 years, which would be 40%, that would put them at $1,500 per month for life. If they were to go 30 years, that's $2,250 for the rest of their lifetime. And at 40, which is 80%, will put them at $3,000 for the rest of their lifetime. So again, the longer you work, the larger your benefit. So let's look at this example here of how your TRS contributions affect your net income. So let's say that gross income is $3,750 a month. The TRS contribution currently is 6% of your income, so that's $225. And therefore, your taxable salary is $3,525. So you're only taxed on that $3,525 as opposed to the $3,750. So there are benefits, additional benefits as far as your taxable liability goes, and while you're working. And the idea is in our retirement, hopefully, we'll be paying less taxes at that time. So it should be a benefit then as well, but nobody can predict the future. But while you're working, it does help with what's taxable income for you in the course of your career. So again, contributions are credited to your account, and you also earn interest on your contributions. So currently, you earn interest at a rate of 4.5% per year. So you're paying into the plan at a rate of 6% per year of your check, but you're also getting 4.5% each year on the contributions that you put into the system. And that 4.5%, you can't find that at any savings account anywhere. So that's a really good rate of return on your contributions in your TRS account. So for those of you who had no idea what TRS was, you're trying to figure out what is this 6%, what is this TRS amount that's coming out that's going towards your benefit to guarantee your income for the rest of your lifetime, and also for your beneficiaries if you so choose. Now, the salary that's reported is reported by your employer, so you can verify what is taxable, or excuse me, a TRS contribution based on one, your paycheck, and also you can verify that with your employer as well. So if if you're getting a stipend, for example, or if you're getting a supplement, and you're trying to figure out if that contributes towards your TRS, your HR department will definitely be a good resource to tap into to check, or maybe your payroll department, just depending on the county or the system that you're in, they would have that information for you. So when can I retire? People come up to me and they say, Winston, I have this many years. So what's the soonest that I can retire? Well, it totally depends on the number of years of service you have and also the type of retirement that you're looking at. So we have three different types. We have a normal service retirement, which means you can retire with 30 years of service at any age, or if you have 10 years of service at 60 years of age. Now, again, the percentage that you get is going to be based on the years of service that you have when you retire. So if you have 30 years of service, that will give you 60%. If you have 10 years of service, then that's going to give you 20. There's also a disability retirement. So regardless of your age, if you have 10 or more years of service and you become disabled and cannot perform your current job duties or qualify for a disability retirement, you can retire at that time without any penalty. And the last type of retirement is the early service retirement. So at that time, you can retire with at least 25 years of service. Then, of course, you have less than 30 and you have less than 60 years of age. You can retire at that time, but there is a penalty that's applied to that type of retirement. That penalty, in short, is 7% for each year or partial year under 30 years of service, or 7% for each year under age 60. So we'll look at the two, which one of those penalties will be the lesser of the two, whether it's based on your age or your years of service, and that will be applied. But just know that an early service retirement, that is a permanent reduction to your retirement benefit. So that may be an option for you, but you definitely want to know that that's going to have an impact for life on your retirement benefit. Now, when you retire, you have several plans to choose from. So in your last 6 months, either before your retirement date or the last 6 months of your career, you're going to choose which plan for yourself and which plan is going to be left to your beneficiary. So the plan that you choose is going to determine how much you get and if there's a lifetime income for a beneficiary or not. So you have non-survivorship plans and you have survivorship plans. Non-survivorship are the plan A and the plan B option 1. Survivorship options are plan B options 2 through 4. So these you don't have to be concerned about at this time because, again, you choose that when it's time for you to retire. But it is good to know what's available. So obviously, if you're taking a larger lifetime income to not guarantee a lifetime income to a beneficiary, you're going to have a larger lifetime income because we don't have to account for paying for somebody else for the rest of their lifetime. However, if you're choosing a survivor, so you want to guarantee somebody else a lifetime income, you are taking a reduction in order to guarantee that benefit to someone else. And also, the younger that beneficiary is, the more of a reduction that you're going to see in your lifetime to guarantee that benefit to someone else. So there's some things to consider as you're planning your retirement. And also, how does this play into contributions that you may be putting into a 401k or 403b or other retirement savings and investments? So all of this you want to consider as you're making your plans for your career and also for your retirement. And again, there's never a time that's too soon to start planning for your retirement. The sooner, the better. So there's three different types of service that counts towards your retirement. There's membership service, your purchase service, and also your unused sick leave. So membership service is service that you work for. And for most of us, 9 months makes a full year of service. So our fiscal year runs between July and June. And as long as you have 9 months of service, within that time, you have your full year's credit. There are some that work for university and colleges where 8 months makes a full year. And that's usually your professors and your teaching staff. So as long as you have that either 8 months or 9 months within the fiscal year, you have your full year for that year. And that position has to be a permanent position, and you have to work at least half time or more in that position each month. So anything that's temporary or part-time would not count towards your TRS benefit. And that's a question that we get quite often. So there are some of you who have done, let's say, some grad assistant work, or teacher assistant work, and that was temporary, or you may be doing night school and you're working on a part-time basis. Those do not count towards your TRS benefit. Now, you can also purchase service towards your TRS benefit as well. And most of the service purchases are for service that you rendered at some point in the past. So one example would be withdrawn service from TRS, where you worked for TRS for a certain number of years, you terminated, and then you withdrew your contributions and your interest, where you can repurchase that service after you've completed 3 years of return work in the TRS covered employer. There's out-of-state public education for both K through 12 and for higher education, military, active duty military service, and there's a host of others that you can find on our website. So we'll touch on where you can find that information at a little later in the presentation. But if you're thinking that maybe you have some time that you can purchase, you want to think about your work history. There's also forms on our website where you can get service certified. So there's service for out of state and both in Georgia as well, where you can fill out that form, send it to your previous employer, and we will verify if you can buy that service or not. And funds can be rolled over from other eligible retirement plans, such as 401ks and IRAs and other pension plans, or you can use personal funds. And the last type of service that counts towards your TRS benefit is unused sick leave. So this is only sick leave that's from TRS covered employers. Each one of your employers will have to verify your sick leave that you accrue with them. And the max that you can accrue is 1.25 days per month. So some of us work for systems where they give a sick leave allowance of a higher rate than a day and a quarter. So let's say you're in a system where you get 2 days per month. That has to be adjusted when that's sent to TRS. So something to keep in mind if you're especially in the metro Atlanta County and you're getting a higher rate of sick leave, when that's turned into TRS, that will be converted to fit what's allowed it across the board for all the employers. And your sick leave cannot be used towards your vesting. So vesting is when you have 10 or more years of service. You can't use sick leave for that, only service that you work for. And you also can't use your sick leave towards your age. So sometimes people will ask, well, I have 28 years of service, or I'm 58 years of age. Can I use 2 years of sick leave to make me age 60? So you can't use it to make yourself older, but you can use it to give yourself more credit above the amount that you have vested. Now, this is a chart. This chart you can find in our members guide. You can find it on our website as well. But it gives you a breakdown of how much credit goes towards, as far as days goes towards creditable service for TRS. So if you have less than 60 days of sick leave, that does not count towards your TRS creditable service. But at 60 days, that gives you 3 months. At 70 days, it's 4 months, and every 20 days after that gives you an additional month of service. Now, 9 months makes a full year. So we mentioned that before. Therefore, 170 days of sick leave will give you a full year of service. If you have 350 days, it's 2 years, and there's no max to this. So the more sick leave that you have, the higher the amount of credit that will add towards your TRS benefit when it's time to retire. So you definitely want to think about that as you're working. If you don't have to take any sick leave days, it definitely benefits you in the end. So I know some will say, well, I need to take a mental health day. These people are driving me crazy. The kids are driving me crazy. And that's understandable. And there's also reasons to take sick leave. So obviously your sick leave is there for you when you're ill, or you have a loved one or a family member that is ill. So definitely want to use your sick leave appropriately. But if you don't have to use it, you'll see that it gives you a higher amount of credit and therefore a higher monthly income for the rest of your lifetime. So we have this example here. We have Tom and Mary. They're both 60 when they retired, worked as teachers for 26 years, and both earned 12.5 days of sick leave every year. Tom always used his available sick leave, but Mary rarely used hers. They both had the same high average salary of $4,500 at the time of retirement. So for Tom never uses sick leave. Tom has no unused sick leave. So he used all of his sick leave. So we'll take that 26 years that he accrued, multiply that by 2% to get 52%. And his high average salary was 4,500, and therefore his monthly income, his monthly benefit will be 2,340 for life. Now, Mary had 312 days, which equals 16 months or 1 year and 7 months of extra service. So even though she worked the same amount as Tom, her final average salary would be based on 55.56% because she has 27.778 years or 27 years and 7 months of service at the time that she retires. The same hybrid salary, but you can see that her benefit is $2,500 as opposed to 2,340. So they both work the same amount of time. They both had the same hybrid salary, but Mary has a higher monthly income because she has sick leave accrued at the time that she retires. So you definitely want to make sure that you save as much as possible if you can at all possible. So let's move on to some other topics. Let's talk about the importance of vesting, terminating employment, and also your beneficiaries and how they're factored into the equation. So let's say you decide that you want to leave a TRS company employer, you want to pursue something in the private sector, or let's say you want to start a business for yourself. So if you decide to leave and you want to leave your funds with TRS, if you're vested, you're eligible for a lifetime monthly income at age 60. So let's say you have 10 or more years of service, you decide that I'm going to go and pursue another career. Well, at age 60, you can start drawing a monthly income at that time. Again, we talked about interest on your contribution. So your account remains active for 4 years after your last day of work, and you continue to accrue interest at 4.5% for 4 years. After that fourth year, your account becomes inactive, and therefore you do not accrue any more interest. But your funds are still there, and therefore when it's time to retire, you can start drawing a benefit. And if you decide to come back to a TRS covered employer, you can continue to earn service credit towards your retirement. Now, if you withdraw the funds, if you're vested, you're forfeiting that lifetime income. You can take those funds in either a lump sum or you can roll it over to another qualified retirement plan. But if you take it in a lump sum, you'll be paying taxes at that time. And depending on your age, there may be penalties as well. So there's early withdrawal penalties if you're under a certain age. So that's something to keep in mind. So you could be looking at 20, 30, 40% of what you contributed into TRS being taken away in the form of taxes and penalties. Now, you can buy that service back. So if you do come back to a TRS covered employer and work 3 years, you can buy that service back, but you have to pay back both which you withdrawn plus interest that's accumulated over time. So even though you're getting a lesser amount because of taxes and penalties, you still have to pay the full amount that was withdrawn outside of the taxes and the penalties plus the interest that's accrued. So something to think about if you're thinking about terminating and you're thinking about withdrawing your funds from TRS. All right, so here's an example of withdrawing funds. So Sarah began teaching at age 25 and after 17 years decided to leave for employment in the private sector. So she has 17 years, which would be 34%, and we'll multiply that by $5,761, which is her high average salary, and she would get $1,959 for the rest of her life at age 60. And also there's the possibility of her benefit increasing with cost of living adjustments. Now, if she withdraw those funds, she can take $63,990 before taxes. And that's going to be different for everybody depending on your salary and the interest that's accumulated. She's given up the lifetime income. Again, she has to pay taxes and possibly penalties, and she will have to buy that plus interest in order to reestablish that credit. So she will have to restore that 63,000 plus whatever interest that's accrued on top of that from the time that she was drawn it. So a very important decision to make if you're thinking of terminating, and that's something that I highly recommend meeting with a financial planner or advisor about before you make that decision. Now, as far as your beneficiary is concerned, we talked about beneficiaries a little earlier and mentioned that they can get a lifetime income depending on the plan that you choose and some other circumstances if you happen to pass before you retire. But the beneficiary information that we have is based solely what's on file at TRS. So there's nothing that supersedes the information that we have here. And also what's very important, we're coming up on open enrollment in a few months. The changes that you make there, information that's changed for your open enrollment does not roll over to TRS. So your TRS benefit is separate from your life insurance, your health plan, all of those things that you make changes for that does not roll over to TRS. So it's a good idea just to log into your account every year. If you haven't established your account, you definitely want to go to trsga.com and establish your account and make sure that we have beneficiaries on file for you. For those of you that are brand new, let's say this is your first day of work, your first week or month of work, you don't have a TRS account just yet. Your employer has to send some information to us. But about 2 months after your hire date, you want to go to your TRS portal. So go to trsga.com and create your account and add your beneficiary. So again, the information that we have on file is the information that will determine who payments are made out to. So you want to make sure that that is accurate.
How exploiting IRS code 408M3 can pay you to...
Let's disregard that ad.
On the road to retirement, one of the most important decisions you can make is who will receive the benefits of your retirement account beyond your lifetime. With Teacher Retirement System of Georgia, your beneficiaries are not decided by documents like wills, divorce, decrees, or marriage certificates. Rather, they're determined only by the beneficiary information on file at TRS when you pass away. Therefore, it's critical that you designate at least one primary beneficiary and one secondary, as well as routinely update your TRS beneficiaries to reflect significant life changes, such as divorce, marriage, births, and deaths. Reminder, beneficiary designation completed with HR does not transfer over to TRS. This includes changes during open enrollment. Also, keep in mind that if you don't have the right person or persons on file, it can lead to costly legal problems and unnecessary frustration. Likewise, if you are the beneficiary on file at the time of a retiree's death, it is imperative that you notify TRS as soon as possible. That's why it's so important that you designate your beneficiaries now. The good news? It's easy to do. Simply log into your TRS account and visit the Designate Beneficiary section to complete the form. And as always, we're here to help you along the way. So here's to good planning and to the road ahead.
All right, so that was a short clip that we have about beneficiaries and how that's important to you. If you need to review that video, it's on our YouTube page, so you can check that out at any time. Let me stop that. Sorry, y'all. All right. So your TRS benefit is pretty much on autopilot. You don't have to worry about checking your TRS benefit as far as, okay, do I need to put in more? Can I take things out? Can I make changes there? The way that your pension plan is set up, that's automatic for you. But there are things that you should think about as far as it relates to both your career planning and your retirement planning outside of TRS. So here are some questions that you want to ask yourself. What are my financial goals and how will I achieve them? Have I established other retirement and investment accounts? How am I managing my monthly expenses to achieve my financial goals? Am I contributing to Social Security? Will TRS be enough to meet my financial goals? So these are very important questions to ask yourself. So let's go through a couple of these real quick. So for Social Security, for example, some counties, some systems pay into Social Security and some don't. So it totally depends on which system or county that you work for. So for those of you that don't, one consideration that people may make is to take the percentage that would be going to Social Security and put that into an investment account, such as a 401k or 403b or 457. If you're thinking that you're going to work for TRS for a certain number of years, and let's say you plan on working 30 years to get 60% of your income, will that be enough to live the type of lifestyle that you envision in your retirement? And if so, what do you need to do in the meantime in order to achieve that? So does that mean paying down debt? Does that mean having your expenses at a certain level? So these are things to think about very early in your career. Again, working longer in a TRS covered position means a larger monthly income for you. So the longer you work, again, the higher your monthly income will be. As far as how you're spending the money, you want to make sure that you identify where your money is going. You want to always make sure that what's going out is less than what's coming in. And so you have to budget, the B word. So that was something when I first started working, I really didn't like to do, really did not like to budget. And even now, sometimes you just don't want to take the time to go through all of your transactions, go through all of your spending. But it's very important because you need to know exactly where all of your dollars are going. It's one of the most pivotal things that you can do as far as your retirement plan is concerned. So again, track your spending with a budget. And it's also good to get a financial coach or advisor so they can tell you about different tools that are available out there. And they can also see if what you're doing now is going to help you get to the goals that you have in your mind. So if you are saving, let's say 10% of your salary, they can tell you if that's enough or if you need to increase that or if you're right where you need to be. Some other resources that are available to you is through the Federal Reserve. So they have a website that's set up just for educators. They have tools there that are available for you as an educator for your students and also for you for your retirement planning. So they have an outreach program themselves. They do virtual and in-person events. So this is a really good website. Just you can take your camera out and just snapshot this, or you can do a screenshot if you're on your computer. And they have a lot of resources there. So definitely check that out, federalreserveeducation.org. You also want to save for a rainy day, so establish both short-term and long-term savings. Short-term would be less than a year, and long-term more than a year. So there's always going to be a rainy day. My grandmother would say that all the time. You have to save for a rainy day. You never know what's going to happen. So if you can avoid putting short-term emergencies on a credit card, that's obviously always best because you don't have to pay any interest. There things are going to happen. The roof is going to collapse at some point. The tires are going to go out. The brakes are going to go out. Your child may have an emergency. So it's always good to have some short-term savings and also long-term for bigger things that we want to do. Maybe it's buying a home or maybe it's paying off a car cash. So you want to think about those long-term goals and save towards both of those. Evaluate your credit cards and interest rates. So interest rates on some products now at all-time lows. So that's something to consider. Also, you want to look at your credit cards. If you do hold balances there, is that rate 20, 30, 40%? Those are some things to consider. And how does that impact your retirement planning goals? And again, if your employer does not contribute to Social Security, you may want to consider investing yourself with a defined contribution plan, an IRA, a brokerage account, or other investments. So currently that rate is 6.2%, which you would be paying if you are paying into a Social Security covered system. That's 6.2%. But if you're not, you can take that 6.2% and invest on your own. So as far as those to defined contribution plans are concerned, so a 401k, 403b, or 457, you would choose. So you want to get in touch with your HR department. They can let you know who your vendors are, and you choose how much you want to put into that plan. You also choose your investment options, so your level of risk. You may have mutual funds that are available to you, or you may have a mix of different investment funds, ETFs, other investment tools that may be available for you that will be appropriate for your level of risk, whether you're risk averse or you're risk tolerant. So a financial advisor would go over that with you from a defined contribution plan. And unlike your TRS benefit, which you'll know exactly what you're going to get each month in your retirement for the rest of your life, contribution plans, defined contribution plans, they do fluctuate with the market. So that will go up and down over the course of your lifetime. So it's really important to make sure that if you are already putting into a defined contribution plan or plan to in the future, that you're meeting with your custodian on a regular basis to make sure that where your risk tolerance is and where your investments are appropriate for where you are and where you are as far as approaching your retirement. Now, here's a quick example of compounding interest. And so this is some people will call it one of the wonders of the world. Einstein, he remarked this is one of the most amazing things, one of the most amazing human discoveries that ever existed. So let's look at somebody who's doing the same amount, or we can look at this example as three different people that decide to contribute the same amount and are getting the same rate of return on contributions. So let's say we have three people. One person starts at 22, one person starts at 32, and one person starts at 42. Or it could be the same person that just decides to wait until 32 or 42. They all decide to contribute at $100 per month. They get a rate of return of 5%, which is well low below the average of the stock market. And they all decide to retire at age 60. So the first person has 38 years in the market, 28 years, and 18 years for the last. So the balances on those accounts, and that's just at 5% per year, is 135,000, a little over that for the 22-year-old, a little 73,000 for the 32-year-old, and a little over 34,000 for the 42-year-old. So as you can see, the earlier you start, the more beneficial it will be for you. So definitely, if you're going to afford to do so, it's highly recommended to start contributing into investments at an earlier point in your career. Now, if you want to find out more about investing, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, they have a website for teachers as well. So they also go over topics such as scams to look out for. There's a lot of phishing that's out there now, and there's all kind of things that you may have been approached with, especially during the pandemic. I know I got a lot of different either advertisements or just random text messages and emails where people will say things like, send me $500 and 2 weeks later you'll get 5,000 back. There were the blessing looms, there were these type of circles, there were all kind of things that were out there. So investor.gov, the SEC, they go over things such as this, and as well as things that you should be looking out for as far as investing go when you're meeting with a custodian or a financial planner. So that's investor.gov/teachers. Some recommendations from TRS. Again, you want to make sure that you have already created your TRS account. And if you are brand new, just revisit our website at least 2 months after your start date. Make sure your beneficiaries are accurate and up to date. And on a periodic basis, you want to go back at least yearly and just make sure that everything in your account is accurate. Some other resources to find financial planners or advisors are cfp.net for financial planners and napfa.org for fee-only advisors. And your human resources department is a great resource for not only your career, salary, and benefits, but they know quite a bit about TRS as well. So they tend to have their hands in all different pots because a lot of things flow through them. So they're a great resource as far as finding those vendors for investment options, also checking your salary, making sure that certain things are accurately reported to TRS as well. So highly recommend stopping with your HR department on a periodic basis as well. All right, so that wraps up the information that we're going to present to you today. If you haven't already, some of you are already viewing on Facebook or YouTube, so no need to scan these QR codes if you're already there. But we also have a podcast, which is called Your Retirement in Focus. So we cover different topics, anything from the retirement application process, several processes internally, and also we cover external things. So like the ERS retirement system, for example, some of you may have employment or years of service under ERS, so that might be of interest to you. So we try to cover different things that will be important to you as a member over the course of your career. So at this time, I am going to pull up the chat box and see what questions you guys have. And if there's any of you that are not shy and want to ask me a question audibly, I can unmute you and I'll make you a panelist, and we can have a verbal conversation. So I will just pull up some of these questions here, and let's see. Okay, some of them are kind of long, so I won't be able to read that one, but let's see. All right, so is the highest average salary per month gross or net? So everything that we work with is gross salary. So we'll look at your gross before any deductions come out to determine what your hybrid salary is. does the 4.5% interest that you earn change per year? So that right now that hasn't changed. It's 4.5% fixed. That could change. So that's not a guarantee, but it has not changed for years. Another question: what if you work less than 10 years, and what do you get when you retire or leave? So if you have less than 10 years of service, that means you're not vested. So you're not entitled to a retirement benefit if you have less than 10 years of service. So you have to have at least 10 in order to receive a retirement benefit. If you decide to leave, you can leave your funds with TRS and accrue that interest at 4.5% for 4 years after your last date of work. If you decide to come back, you will start to contribute to that TRS benefit again. But if you leave, you can take those funds with you and put that into another retirement account. So that would be your option that you would have if you have less than 10 years of service. Where do libraries fall with the 8 or 9 month credit for 1 year? So it'll be 9 months for those of you that work in the libraries. What if you worked in a university on a 12-month contract, staff, not faculty, 1 year? Does 1 year equal 12 months? Okay, so this is across the board for anybody that's on a 12-month contract, whether you're in K through 12, higher education, if you're in a library, if you're at an agency. So you only get 1 year of credit per fiscal year. So whether you work a 9, 10, or 11, 12-month contract, you still get 1 year within that fiscal year. So you can only get 1 year of credit through the fiscal year. But those of you that work longer months, so for those of you that work 12 months as opposed to a 10-month contract, in the end, you can get more credit because you're accruing more sick leave than somebody that works at 8, 9, or 10-month credit service contract. So you get more credit or the ability to earn more credit on the back end with your sick leave as opposed to somebody that works a 10-month contract, for example. All right. Let's see. We'll go through a few more here. What is the number of years of service that needs to be considered vested? That's 10 years of service. Somebody asked, is this a video? Yes, this is recorded, so this will be played on our YouTube channel if you want to review this information. Is your monthly benefit calculated using your highest 1 year or highest number of years of salary? Okay, so the high average salary is your highest 2 consecutive years. So it's 24 months of service wherever that occurs in your career. It's the highest 24 months of service. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your last 2, just your highest 2 consecutive years of service. All right, let's see. All right, so somebody wants to go back to the questions that we should ask ourselves. And these are very important questions to ask yourself as far as retirement planning goes. So I will put that slide back up for you all to view. So again, what are my financial goals and how will I achieve those? Have I established other retirement and investment accounts? How am I managing my monthly expenses to achieve my financial goals? Am I contributing to Social Security? And will the TRS benefit be enough to cover my retirement needs? Are employees able to contribute a higher percentage into their TRS account, or 6% the max? So 6% is the set rate that's already determined by policy. So you can't add more into your TRS benefit. Anything that you want to do above, you have to do that through other retirement accounts, such as defined contribution plans like a 401k or 403b or another type of investment plan. So 6% is the max, and that's already preset. Someone had a question about cost of living adjustments. So cost of living adjustments only apply to your retirement benefit. So not while you're working, but in your retirement, you can get an additional 1.5% every 6 months on top of that monthly income. So it can increase over time, and that's based on inflation. So TRS looks at the consumer price index over a 6-month period to determine if a cost of living adjustment can be awarded. So that's something that only applies to a retirement benefit. All right, someone asked, what is your percentage benefit if you have between 10 and 15 years of service? So each month that you contribute towards TRS gives you another portion of service credit. So 1 month, we multiply that 2% by 0.111. So wherever you fall, let's say if you fall at 13 years, then that would give you 13 years times 2%, so 26 years of your hybrid salary. So if you don't have to hit 5% increments, excuse me, 5-year increments to accrue credit each month that you put toward the system, you're getting another increment of service credit. All right, so someone asked about taking a break. So am I still a vested employee if I took a break for 4 months from one USG school to another USG school? So service breaks, they don't affect whether you're vested or not. So if you're already vested, let's say you had your 10 years of service already, you took a year off between jobs and you started to contribute again with your new employer, that does not affect your vesting or the credit that you had already. All right, so someone had a question about the options. So the options you choose at the time that you retire. So there's 7 different options that you'll choose from. That happens within the last 6 months of your career or last 6 months prior to your retirement date. So that information you can find on our website. There are survivorship options and non-survivorship options. The non-survivorship options will give you a lifetime income, but not your beneficiaries, and therefore you have a higher lifetime income. The survivorship options where you're guaranteeing a benefit to a survivor, surviving beneficiary, you're taking a lesser monthly income than you would get in the non-survivorship options to guarantee that benefit to someone else. Will the monthly benefit I receive be taxed? So yes, depending on the state that you reside in, you'll pay state income taxes and also federal income taxes. So you don't pay any taxes on your TRS contributions now, but when you receive that in your retirement, yes, you do pay taxes at that time. Someone has 24 years in in ERS. So they worked 24 years under the ERS system. It's now working for TRS. So if the plan is to retire from both systems, retire with 24 years from ERS and then 10 or more years from TRS, the question was, will the ERS benefit have an impact on TRS? So no, it will not. If you withdraw from 2 different systems, they will not impact each other. So the ERS won't affect the TRS, or vice versa, the TRS won't impact the ERS. For Social Security, however, there may be some circumstances where having a TRS, ERS benefit, or even a federal benefit. So let's say you're getting a railroad benefit, you work for the post office, you're getting a benefit there, military. There are cases where that could affect your Social Security income. So you definitely want to check out socialsecurity.gov, ssa.gov. They have what's called a WEP, and they have a GPO offset. So the WEP is the windfall elimination provision, and the GPO is the government pension offset. So depending on the number of years of service that you have in Social Security, number of years of creditable years with them, that could or could not have an impact on your benefit there. So definitely you want to reach out to Social Security if you're in a system that doesn't pay into Social Security, or you have some years where you haven't paid in and you may have less than 30 years of service. 30 years paid into Social Security at what's called substantial earnings. Also, if you're expecting a spousal benefit and you will be receiving a pension from city, state, or federal government, then you want to check on that as well, because it could impact what you expect to receive there. So some things to think about. All right, so we'll do a few more questions here. All right, so one question is about sick leave. What if your district only allows so many sick days to be carried over each year? How does that work with accruing sick days for retirement? So if you're transferring from one district to another, county to another, one type of TRS covered employer to another, the max allowed that's transferred from one system to the other is 45 days. Now, you don't lose any of those sick leave days what you accrued from your previous employer, you still have that. So what you can do is go ahead and get that time certified. There's a form called a sick leave certification form. You download that from our website, send it to your previous employer. They'll send what you accrued at that system over to us. Therefore, you can kind of keep a tab on the total amount that you have. You won't be able to see that in your TRS account online. However, you can reach out to us and ask if we received that form and how much sick leave was reported. So you never lose any sick leave just from transferring from one system to the other, but only 45 days can be transferred for use while you're still working from one system to the other. Someone asked, after resigning, can you leave your contributions with TRS for 4 years, then roll it over? Yes, you can do so. So there isn't any preset time that you have after your last date of work or a time limit that you have in order to roll those funds into another retirement account. What happens with forfeited sick leave? Am I limited to earning 720 hours? So each employer has a limit as far as how much you can carry at the time and how much you can use. So some systems is 720 hours. At that point, they say that you're forfeiting your sick leave. So that means you're just forfeiting the access to that sick leave while you're employed there. Now, as far as your retirement credit is concerned, again, that's being banked, so you're not losing that, but you just don't have access to that sick leave while you're working because you have the max that you can use in any particular year. All right, so I'm going to do 3 more questions here. If a parent is a beneficiary and passes away, I need to go in and change that to someone that is living, correct? So yes, if you have life changes where a beneficiary is on file and that beneficiary has passed, then you definitely want to make sure that you change that both through either open enrollment or at the time of the event with through those benefits that you have, and you want to make sure that you do that with TRS as well. So if you want to make sure that someone gets a lifetime income or has access to your contributions and interest in a lump sum, you want to make sure that they are the beneficiary on file. So if you have had any life events such as that, such as a death of your beneficiary, you want to make sure that you update that as soon as possible. That would be the same if you happen to get remarried, for example, or if you have children and you want to guarantee that benefit to the new child and the spouse. Then those are other examples where you want to make sure that you go in and make changes to your benefit. Another question is, I left the local school system in 2015. I am now working in the university system. Will I still have the same TRS account? Okay, yes. So you still have the same TRS account, so you can work for all 420 employers within the state that's covered under TRS, and you'll still have your same TRS account. So that doesn't change. You still have that, the contributions and interest that all merges together. So there's nothing that you have to do as far as your TRS account. We keep track of all of that. All right, and one more here. Okay, so this one is for somebody that has quite a bit of credit already. If I have 22 years and 8 months of service at age 60 and a minimum of 456 hours of sick leave, that qualifies for 50% or 60% of the highest 2 years. Okay. All right. So this one, there's a couple of things going on here. All right. So the minimum amount of hours of sick leave that you need is 480 hours. So again, you need 60 days of sick leave, and that equates to 480 hours that you need. So basically, whatever hours that you have, you divide that by 8, and that will give you the amount of sick leave that you have. But for those of you that accrue at a rate that's higher than a day and a quarter per month, that has to be adjusted. So keep that in mind as well. So you need at least the 480 days to give you 3 months of service. And of course, the more hours that you have or the more days that you have, the more credit that you're going to get. If you have 22 years and 8 months, we're going to multiply that by 2%. So 22, let's see, I'm going to have to pull my calculator here. So I'll make sure that I'm giving you guys the right figures. So we'll multiply 22.8 times 2. So that's 45.6. So it's 45%, 45.6% of their high average salary. The 50%, that would only be a case if you have 25 years at the time that you retire. For 60% is for 30 years. So again, the percentage that you will have of your hybrid salary, that is determined by the years of service that you end up with. So those months in between years, those count towards that service credit as well, and that percentage. All right, so I think that covers it. So I hope this information was beneficial for you today. If you want to view the replay of this will be available on our YouTube site. So if you haven't followed already, please do so. We're going to do this again on August 3rd, the same time, 1 p.m. And this will be streamed on WebEx, Facebook, and YouTube as well. So if you want to see it live again at that time, we will have another one of our planners that will be doing that presentation. So you can ask those questions again. And also just tell your friends, tell anybody that hasn't seen this, come check this out. Also, your principals, your administrators, the HR department, let them know that we're doing this. You want to make sure that you're spreading the word about this. So I hope, again, this was beneficial to you. Please go to our website if you haven't already. Make sure your account is up to date. Make sure everything is accurate there. Follow us on our social media. And I hope this is a great school year for those of you that are educators, a great school year, and everybody that's on the back end. I hope this is a great school year for you all. I know we're all transitioning back into whatever the unknown is. We had a great unknown last year, and we all made it through. But my wife is a teacher, and my daughter is going to first grade, so a lot of unknowns and uncertainty there. But we'll get through it all together. We're dependable. We're here. We've gone through all kind of crises in the past, and we've been around since 1943 and have not missed any monthly payments. So one thing that you can depend on is TRS being the same. We do also have, for those of you that may have 10 or more years of service, we have mid-career counseling. So if you're interested in meeting with us one-on-one, you can meet with us. You can log into your TRS account. You can search the event code. So you go to statewide events and appointments, type in the code MIDCARE, MIDCARE, so MIDCARE, and you can stretch out the search to 200 miles, and you can actually sign up for a one-on-one appointment. And if there's anybody in here that has 25 or more years of service, you're in the pre-retirement range, so you definitely want to meet with us and make sure that we're going over your account, and we will give you a benefit estimate so you know exactly what you're going to get at the time of retirement. So thank you all so much for attending. My name is Winston Buckley, and just shoot us questions if you have them for us. There is a contact us form on our website, and we can answer questions that you may have. So that's all we have. Thank you all, and have a great day.